I was very interested in the in your brief discussions of the Indus Valley Civilization in the book. Can you tell us? The story. You make the point that it wasn't a sudden collapse, but it was gradual. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, it's a very good question. Historians are always interested about collapse, but I'm interested in why things grow. So the bit that I'm most interested about in the Indus Valley is why the settlement was so successful in the first place.
Yes.
Why was it that unusually, compared to all other civilizations at the same time, cultures and societies, levels of inequality were much, much lower in the Indus Valley.
Yes.
And probably that's because to do with environmental factors. But there are lots of different combinations.
And the evidence for that is, you say fewer monuments, fewer memorials.
Fewer monuments, the fact that there is movement of housing, probably because of the movement of the rivers. The big glaciers and the rivers sending down water from the Himalaya means that the routes of the rivers keeps changing. And that means that access to the best land will change every year or every few years. So normally real estate is most valuable when it's near resources, when it's near water, when it's near electricity. But the collapses happen for lots of different reasons. One is always to do with the sag of local and regional and even intercontinental trade. That can be part of lots of other factors. Sometimes there can be climate elements too. Often there's a disease environment where you find mortality levels start to go up. A pandemic, for example, that can lead to all sorts of redistributions of population, and then to migration to different locations. And so we talk about these like collapse, but sometimes redistributions are ways of dealing with risk. So Indus looked very different to me to many other parallel worlds, but it's a fantastically important one because the thing I'm most interested in is the sophistication and the ways in which society is able to structure itself. But I'm glad you asked me here. I need to make sure I'm ready for the questions in the theatre this afternoon.
Yeah, it's interesting that I look forward to reading the end notes on it. They're online, I saw.
Well, there are 4,000, so my book, it's already quite a fat book.
Yes,
it's funny, I think, with we historians, we love to check each other's footnotes, but general readers are normally not that interested, so we put them online. In fact, for my paperback, I put them in the back of the book, but just in very small print. But I quite like being able to have things where I can search through a PDF.
Yeah, I think it's a very good idea, and you said it can be downloaded too.
It can be downloaded, but I'm not sure the publishing industry is going to follow suit. But I quite like trying to try new things out. But there are so many footnotes, and also there's so much new work being done in this field. So, for example, in Indus Valley, since the book was published 2 years ago, there are 3 or 4 more really important articles, and I can now add those to my footnotes too, rather than a book which is like a coffin, you bury it in the ground, you can never touch it again.
Unrelated question, you think the script can ever be deciphered?
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. The AI technology that's breaking through on lots of other scripts at the moment, and being able to read materials that have been scorched by volcanoes, I'm sure it comes. It needs a bit of resource, it needs a team, it needs some funding, but I don't think it's going to be complicated.
Is there enough material, you think?
I'd have thought so. I mean, it's not my area of expertise, but if I look at the ways in which new technologies are changing everything from decoding of pathogens, looking back at phylogenetic trees of disease, I mean, it's extraordinary. But you need a team that's got not an enormous amount of resource behind it. But yeah, I think that'll happen. What it'll show us, I don't know, but I wonder how surprising it will be. But I'll be going to follow that with huge interest.
I've been to Harappa.
You have, yeah.
Yes.
Great. I mean, these locations are fantastically sophisticated. I mean, in Mohenjo-Daro, the sewage system was more sophisticated than anything in Europe before 1840. So, we think of the past always filled with stupid people who are sort of primitive and trying to work things out. But the levels of planning, thought, negotiation, adaptation, resilience, I think are really surprising when you...
You say there's evidence that these levels of sanitation declined.
Yeah.
Or after that.
Yeah. I think anyone who lives in a city, or in fact you don't have to live in a city, keeping networks clean, keeping irrigation channels requires labour. And if that labour disperses or becomes more expensive or the demands are different, then you could have all sorts of challenges. Like at Angkor in Cambodia is a very good example of that, where the magnificent canal system, but it requires a lot of people to keep clean from debris. And if there's dispersal, then suddenly it becomes really hard to maintain things. So, we all recognise that, I think, too, from our own daily lives. Staying on top of challenges and maintenance is not easy. But yeah, I think sanitation, these things can lead to loss of confidence quite quickly.
We really look forward to the session coming up soon.
I'm so pleased to be here. I mean, I love coming to Chennai. So, always these fantastic questions. So, I hope I'll stick around here afterwards with endless cups of coffee. Because I remember last time I came here, the number of people who afterwards want to come and ask questions or make observations, that's part of the joy. I don't need to hear my own voice by giving a lecture, but hearing what people want to talk about is really interesting.
And one footnote, how do you manage to be at both Oxford and Cambridge?
Like a Hindu manifestation or deity, I have multiple manifestations. I mean, Zoom helps. The Cambridge program is for postdocs, so they're fantastically brilliant. My colleagues there, but it's important to have it's been really important to help get more global history and more connectivities in England looking outside Europe. I mean, we're pretty good at that, but even at both Oxford and Cambridge, our expertise for South Asia history is they're fantastic, but there are very few scholars working on it. So there's an obligation, particularly if you're in the public eye, to keep opening doors. So anything you can do to help bring in funding, help research programs, help encourage next generation, it's worth it. So I drink a lot of coffee, I travel quite a lot, moving between the two. The connections between Oxford and Cambridge by car are terrible. It's a terrible drive, but if you wake up early enough, you can get a lot done.
I think this is going to be one of the most interesting sessions of the fest. Thank you for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, sir.